Over the course of Cereal at Midnight's lifespan for the last 5 or 6 years, I've made over 24 videos about the health of physical media. Is physical media dying? Is the state of physical media at the end of every year, the beginning of every new year? I've talked about why no 4K. I've talked about where are the movies? You know, we go into the physical media stores. We go into Best Buy or Walmart or Target or big box stores. Where are the movies? I've covered all these topics. The takeaway, if you haven't seen those, the takeaway from every one of those videos is that physical media as a market has shrunk, but it is not dying. It's actually really healthy for what it is. But I still get these questions, like almost daily, saying, is physical media in serious trouble? Is this the end? Is this the death gasp of our hobby? And so I wanted to make, this may be my last word on it, really. I wanted to make a video putting it out there right on Front Street. Guys, physical media is not dying. I don't think physical media is ever going to die, because as long as there are people like me and like you who are willing to buy it and support it, it will exist. You can't look at the success of streaming, the hundreds of millions of streamers in the world, and compare that to however many of us there are, 100,000, 500,000. I'm not sure how many physical media collectors there actually are. And then we're talking about movies, we're talking about music. Look at vinyl, you guys. I mean, vinyl has now surpassed CDs as the highest selling music format for physical sales. Of course, it will never compete with Spotify or with any of the digital platforms that provide convenience. But for people that do want to own, physical media holds a lot of appeal. And it always will. Physical media, let's talk about movies, because that's what so many of us are focused on. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry every single year, just because big box stores aren't carrying it as much. And I've talked about why, because there's no room for all this stuff. There is so much product coming out. 50 to 60 new movie releases every single week. And people have challenged me on that. They're like, what are you talking about? I don't see that anywhere. There's so many sites you can go to. You got to think of all the boutique Blu-ray labels. You got to think about Kino Lorber and Blue Underground and Mill Creek Entertainment. And I mean, there's dozens of boutique Blu-ray labels. They're putting out stuff. Arrow Video, they're putting out combined like hundreds of titles in every single month. So we're looking at a glut of product. There's no place to put that, because your average Joe that goes into Best Buy for a refrigerator, he's not going to pick up a copy of The Last Starfighter on 4K. That's not what he's there for. We will. It's just gone to an online model. And yeah, those numbers are consistently coming down. That does not imply a death. Physical media has returned to a niche collectible format, which is where it was before the boom. I think a lot of you guys that are sending me these comments and asking these questions weren't here before the boom. Back in the birth of the home video format, let's talk about like the 80s, the early 80s through the 90s. We're talking about video, we're talking about beta, we're talking about VHS. It was a niche collectible format, right? It was not something that everybody was into. It was what the hardcore folks were into, like, the movie nerds. The people that were taping things off their TV and having their own archives, right? That's the people that were probably buying a lot of physical media releases. Then, at some point, these studios clued into this and they're like, wait a minute, we can put out this movie that people, like, you're always going to have the big ones, right? Like Disney's a market leader, or they have been in the past. It's interesting how things change. But I think like in the VHS days, Disney movies, you saw them everywhere. You saw them at the drugstore. You saw like, hey, I went for some cough syrup. I own Aladdin now. That's how it was. Then, like, as that evolved into the DVD era, it's so much cheaper to produce DVDs, which is why DVD is still the king. After all the 25 years later, DVD is still outselling everything else by a healthy margin. Because it's cheap to produce. Everybody has a DVD player. Not everybody. A lot of people have a DVD player. And the cost of entry is low. That makes a format leader. But it doesn't mean that everything else is dying. We talked to so many people here. I've had conversations behind the scenes, but I try to present as many of them to you as I can. So we talked to guys like Bill Lustig from Blue Underground. We talked to Frank Tarzi at Kino Lorber. It's a shrinking industry, but as long as there are people like us to keep it alive, it will remain alive. Let's talk about players really quick, because this is one that people throw at me a lot. Like, yeah, but they don't make players for so-and-so anymore, or so-and-so dropped out of players. You guys, I can go on Amazon right now. I can buy an 8-track player. New. I'm not talking about like refurbished from 1976. You can buy new 8-track players. New 3.5 floppy disk players. By the way, these are dead technologies. Like DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, these are not dead technologies. These are current optical medium that are being used to put all kinds of things on, right? Like, just because computers don't ship with an optical drive doesn't mean that optical drives are going away. It just means now you have a choice. You can add that if you want to. Anyway, 3.5 floppy disk drives. Cassette players. Like, cassettes are huge again, you guys. I just had a Record Store Day. Do you know how many like unique cassette offerings there were on Record Store Day? And there are companies making tape players again. The turning point for me was a couple of years ago when I went into Walmart and they had new blank cassettes and like Walkman style cassette players. I was like, oh man, things have changed. I don't know if they're still carrying those cassettes, to be honest with you guys, but I mean, this was maybe 2 years ago. And I was like, okay, this is evidence for me that nothing ever really goes away. So we don't have to have fear. Somebody is going to make a Blu-ray player forever. It may not be the same company. Different people will supply. And anytime there's a need in the market, and let's be honest, an opportunity to make money, somebody's going to jump on that. And we're going to have whatever we need for as long as we need it. I don't live in fear. I don't believe that this stuff's going away. I don't believe that players are going away. I don't believe that my movies are going to rot over time. We talk about like people, the digital people are always like, yeah, but bit rot, man. I have experienced bit rot like one time out of thousands and thousands of movies. It is a very, very small, very unlikely instance of something that could happen to your collection. Now, what's going to happen in 50 years? Nobody knows. We don't know. But can we put to rest the fear that physical media is dying? Niche, guys, we're talking about niche. It has gone back to being a niche collectible market, and we have never had it so good. We've never had the blessings that we have right now on our home media formats. I mean, back in pre-boom times, let's go back to the 90s again, you could own your movies, even like Laserdisc was probably the highest collectible market for pure cinema purists, right? Because you're getting widescreen and you're getting commentaries and things like that. Do you know how many, like the percentage of people that were buying Laserdiscs? Like, it was not big. It was not a lot. It was niche. It was for the movie kooks, right? It was for, oh, they're like the purist. This is what I'm saying. That's what it's gone back to. You don't go into Walmart anymore and just casually shop the aisles because it's gone back to a niche market. But you do know where you can go, and that's online. And you can get anything you want to get. And these companies are throwing the vaults wide open to serve us. They have done so many... they've organized their whole marketing platforms in some cases to serve us. Like, look at Paramount Presents. Like, they have seen what the Blu-ray boutique labels are doing, and they're like, we got to get in on that. And so now Paramount Presents is modeling after the collectible like they're trying to look like a boutique. We got it great, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. And this is not just an opinion. This is not just Heath talking, pulling stuff out of thin air. Like, remember, I do know most of the people that work on these releases. I know the heads of multiple companies. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. It's going to change. It's going to continue to change. There are companies that won't be around in 5 years. Bill Lustig told us that when I talked to him. He said there are companies operating today that will not be around in 5 years just because there's only so many movies, and if you have to license those movies, that puts a burden on the people that are putting the movies out in the first place. But the studios hold all the cards, right? There are still thousands and thousands of movies in these vaults that have not been released yet. And if they were to be released, they'll release them again in better editions with new commentaries or something like that. So I don't know, just let's just chill. Let's just enjoy. That's really the message that I have at this point. And if this is my final word on the health of physical media, so be it. But I want this to be the last word. Let's enjoy it. Let's appreciate what we have. Let's look at the movies on our shelves and enjoy them. They are meant for us to watch and to enjoy and to share with others and to talk about. There's so much fear in the physical media collecting community. It doesn't have to be that way. It should be a lot of joy, appreciation, and sharing the stuff that we love with other people. So I feel great about the future of physical media. I know that we are, if it all stopped today, which I don't think it will, but if it all stopped today, I'm set for life. I've got everything I could ever dream of. Would I ever get to all of this again? I don't think there's enough time in the world to get to everything I've already got. So it's a great time to be a fan of movies because we have access to the best restorations, the best extras than in the history of home media. I plan to enjoy it, and I hope you do too. Let's continue the conversation in the comments below. Thank you so much. Take care. Until next time, I will catch you later.